It was Halloween night when I encountered the most terrifying stranger in a wheelchair, who just kept staring at me, not knowing whether what he wanted or just watching me. Halloween is always such a surprising night to many children every year when they happen to come by knocking on doors for trick-or-treating. I was like one of them once. Anyone would be the same though, thinking back from their own childhood. My name is Ethan and I was only 29 years old when this took place in my neighborhood not too long ago. Happening about 10 years ago in the year 2014, I remember clearly. I am an auto mechanic working at Jiffy Lube. I don't usually get home until 7 at night since I close up the shop every night. I remember it was actually Halloween that day when my boss decided we could just head home early because work was quite a bit too slow. Nobody wouldn't want to be at work during a slow day, especially on Halloween when people rather party or go trick-or-treating with their children. Not even many customers had shown up that day. The most was at least 3 customers that day, if I remembered clearly, due to the slow hours sitting there just chatting with my coworkers all day. I wanted to go home early and spend time with my family too. Around 4 in the afternoon, we closed up the shop. I was happy to go home right away after a long day waiting on the clock when hardly any customers came to my workplace. My wife has been texting me lately about taking our kids out for trick-or-treating tonight when I was still at work earlier on that day. My workplace was about a 20-minute drive away from home, which I'm happy about because I didn't have to drive across the town just to work. On my way back home in the evening, I had taken the longer way because it was having a rush hour on the freeway that time. For sure, I didn't want to get stuck there for an hour coming home late, missing out on taking my family to trick-or-treating. We lived in Carson City, Nevada, the city where I was officially born and raised there my whole life. When I got home, my family was already out trick-or-treating. My wife texted me 10 minutes before I had reached home while I was still busy driving on the road. I guess I'll be the one staying home passing out candies for children who comes for trick-or-treating. At least it is still very fun though, and I didn't mind at all. I then ate a slice of pumpkin pie found in the refrigerator. I remember my wife had wine in the cabinet which I took out and poured into a glass. Unexpectedly, the doorbell rings when I had barely taken only a bite out of the slice of pumpkin pie that very second. I was so excited that I ran to the front door in the living room, grabbing the bowl of candies that was sitting by the table standing right beside the door. This was going to be fun, I told myself before opening the door. The children who came knocking first appeared to be all dressed up very scary. However, a few were not. I still remember a very little boy who was a zombie. He even tried to scare me though. I didn't fall for it but did actually pretend like it was very scary. This got them all laughing at me. I was the type of guy who loves making people laugh. It was nice to give the little boy who dressed up as a zombie the most candies out of the team, which he came along with because he was a good boy. I just appreciate children who are very nice and speak politely back when I ask questions about their costumes. Some wouldn't even say a word or may have been too strange for me to ask them questions since I'm a stranger just passing out candies to them. As time went on, more children came by trick-or-treating. I remember a little princess came with her dad who was dressing up as a mummy. That guy almost gave me a heart attack. I was so frightened when he popped out from the side of my door to scare me. Like everyone says, Halloween has some crazy things going on if you don't watch out for it to come. You will even get scared by just being the person passing out candies. Later on, I went to watch TV for a while after the children stopped coming. I was enjoying candies too, just like a kid sitting on the couch watching a horror movie on Halloween night like anyone would do. Dracula 2000 was the film I was watching at that time. I then got a doorbell ring right at the disturbing part when the Dracula ghost killing a guy, which made me jump along with the doorbell ringing at the same time, making my way over to the front door. I opened it and saw a guy dressed in all black standing. They're almost appearing like a movie character that I don't recall from which movie. He was dressed in all black, wearing a long black coat along with a black fedora hat on his head. His hands even have gloves on too. Under his hat brim, I can see him have long dark hairs grown lengthened down to his shoulders. He has a dark, unusual Halloween scary mask with fangs showing on the mouth covered upon the bottom part of his face. He just stood there silently looking at me. His appearance was very frightening in some way. A man dressing up like this and showing up at anyone's door on Halloween would be terrifying when he wouldn't make a move and only stands there silently looking down. I thought he was going to play some kind of prank on me when standing there for more than a few minutes without saying a word. I was joking with him that he dressed like the same Dracula from the horror movie I was actually watching now. Somehow he didn't answer at all. It even seems that he wasn't even carrying a bag for trick-or-treating either. I was feeling a little frightened though, just seeing him standing there not doing anything. Is this the part where I should slam my door shut? I asked myself. Then comes a little hand appearing out from behind him. I didn't realize a kid was actually hiding under his long black coat from behind. A little boy came out dressed up as the same exact thing. This made the little boy appear like a mini version of the man standing right in front of me. The kid screams, "Trick or treat," before raising out a bag of candies. I then gave him a handful of candies before they went away. That was like the scariest one I've encountered throughout the whole time passing candies. I was thinking in my head, am I supposed to get pranked by people or am I supposed to prank them instead since this is my house? More likely they have been pranking me all along, which I find funny. I decided to bring a chair outside to sit in front of the door for children to come get candies easier instead of staying inside for the doorbell to ring. More of them started coming later on. I even see teenagers coming with their friends. I joke to myself that I hope I don't get to meet some kind of creepy stranger throughout the night. Even when the time had hit around 9 p.m., children still kept on coming and coming for candies. I was beginning to feel the night growing colder. Even my family haven't returned home yet. I didn't bother trying to call my wife because I didn't want to distract them from having a good time, since we lived in a very big residential area. That was why it took a bit longer for them to go around for trick-or-treating. A while later, after a family of 5 came by to grab candies, my eyes somehow managed to catch a weird stranger sitting on a wheelchair from afar by my front lawn by the side of the road. He had a glow-in-the-dark rubber skeleton mask that goes all around his head. His dressing was an old, faded, dirty, dark brown suit, drastically like an old suit that has been hanging by the sun for months, dried with fading color. I didn't know if he was trying to play a prank or was really a creepy stranger gazing at me at that moment. I never saw a man come along with a wheelchair to trick-or-treat. Not just all, he didn't have anyone with him, just appearing to be coming alone by himself, I notice. He just parked right beside the road and kept looking at my way like I have something for him. I was too nervous to wave to him and kept looking back, only seeing if he would turn away by leaving my area. I can see him sitting on his wheelchair holding both hands together, watching me as he was watching a show going on. That was very frightening. It was something I never experienced on Halloween before. Why is he staring at me for so long? I asked myself. Do I know him from somewhere? The stranger on the wheelchair stood there for a while before deciding to move on the next door, pushing himself forward. I stand up watching him pushing himself towards the next house. The scary thing about it was that he just kept looking over my way even though he had gone on to the next house. His head was locked right at my direction strangely the whole time. Some children came running up to me when I was still staring back at the stranger on the wheelchair. I then gave the children candies, feeling loss of focus by just grabbing them so much candies for being too worried of who I just saw. Before I realized, after being distracted by the children coming for candies, the stranger on the wheelchair had suddenly vanished already. I never expected he would be pushing himself on a wheelchair that fast. My phone then comes ringing that second. It was a call from my wife, Sophia. She calls telling me that they were only 2 houses down from home now. I smiled happily knowing that she had called me to let me know where they are when I told her that I'll be by the front door waiting outside for them. The funny thing was that children were still coming for trick-or-treating and my bucket of candies had lowered down to the last inches of the bowl. I probably have given out too many candies. It wasn't long until my family returned home. My son Dom was dressed as a colorful-looking clown with a red curly hair wig. He had his makeup done well by my wife. My daughter Jamie was the superhero, Wonder Woman, from the famous Detective Comics. She was 2 years older than my son Dom. My wife was a witch dressed in all black with a witch pointy hat on. She wore an orange wig and was carrying a broom along. They came to give me a hug before going into the house. I wanted to give out the last of the candies before going in the house. My wife went inside telling me she'd be cooking dinner right away. She was starving after a long walk around the residential area. Of course, I'll feel the same way after hours of trick-or-treating too. I don't blame my wife for being in that position. Even my children were hungry also. I can tell Dom got enough of eating candies on his way around the neighborhood. Finally, after a while, a boy came in dressed as a Dracula with a mask on and showed up alone and took all the last of my candies. I thought he was a cool kid before he walked away until I eventually caught him throwing an egg right at my car, hitting the driver's side window. That got me shocked and upset at the same time for thinking, why did he do that when he took the last of my candies? He tries to throw an egg at me also, but misses by an inch over my shoulder. This had really gotten me very angry. How dare this kid even do something like this? I threw the bowl aside and sprinted after that kid as fast as I could. I wanted to teach him a lesson so bad by just scaring him away. He was running so fast that I almost couldn't catch up to him. We were both going past more than 3 houses down the road until I managed to catch him by grabbing onto his cape from behind. "What is your problem, kid?" I yelled at him angrily as he tried to pull his cape off of my hand. Apparently, nobody in the neighborhood was watching us or was around either. The kid took off his mask and looked at me angrily when struggling to escape. He had freckles around his cheeks. His hairs were spray-painted dark with Halloween hairspray. I asked him again about what he just did. The kid said he just wanted to see how people get upset when going door to door throwing eggs at them. Before I was going to say something, I noticed over the back of the kid appears the stranger on the wheelchair who was at my place earlier. He was parking in the middle of the road just staring at the two of us. The kid looked over to his back before turning to me again, appearing like he didn't know what I was even staring at. He just took off that second when I stood there silently releasing his cape when watching the stranger on the wheelchair gazing directly my way. Even when the kid ran towards his way, the stranger only kept his eyes locked on me the whole time, like he was even bothering about the kid at all. That second, I feel myself shaking to my feet watching this creepy stranger on the wheelchair staring at me when I had only one thing in mind. That means run. I felt my skin crawling from around my legs. I gently back away a few steps. The stranger on the wheelchair then pushes forwards from his wheelchair towards me suddenly a little. Every time I took a step back, he would push himself forward a foot closer on his wheelchair too. I then step back a little faster than he comes, doing the same too, moving faster towards me. When I stopped then, he just stood there very still, eyeing directly right at me like he wanted something from me. I can hear him intentionally breathing under the glow in the dark skeleton mask he was wearing. It felt as if he was actually breathing right next to my ears when everything was silent around the circumstance from where I was standing. Looking at him carefully without making a move, I realized he had no shoes at all and only appeared in bare feet sitting on the wheelchair. Both of his feet had cracked, dried skin with some toes that apparently had missing toenails. The toe with missing nails appears like dried blood flesh showing, almost as his toenails were removed somehow, or likely as the nails were pulled out of his toe. His feet appear skinny with veins running around like an old skinny man. Standing there quietly, not knowing what I should say at the moment to him, I just kept telling myself, speaking in my head, just turn around and run. Run. Just do it. Run now. It was almost as if my warm blood had been sucked out of my whole body standing there for the last couple of minutes across from this weird stranger sitting on the wheelchair. Awkwardly, I couldn't take my eyes off of his nasty barefoot missing toenails. This gave me so much chill, feeling like spiders crawling around my neck, tingling me in a sense. I then turn around quickly, then run back towards the direction of my house. There wasn't any second I could think of trying to speak with him since we are strangers to each other only. Everything about him just makes me feel the chills running around my body. When running back down the road, I quickly glanced over my back, seeing him, eventually chasing after me, pushing the wheels as fast as a person paddling a bicycle at 10 miles per hour from the wheelchair. I was so scared trying to sprint faster to lose him. The stranger on the wheel was drastically not stopping at all, like he wanted to catch me and do something. I keep running like I was being chased by a dog and avoid looking back, knowing I must escape the terrifying night. I can see his large shadow spotting closer to me on the road. I never imagined a handicapped man could push a wheelchair this fast. Insanely fast, I mean like no one I ever seen able to do this before. I can feel the monstrous energy of his shadow reaching to my chest that second. Suddenly, I came bumping into some kids and tripped over to the grass falling. I happened to fall right onto the front lawn of my house. The kids who I bumped onto came with their parents. What I did made those parents extremely very upset at me, thinking I was being foolish around when they didn't know I was actually being chased by the stranger on the wheelchair. They glare angrily at me when walking away before I can even try to apologize. Somehow I didn't see the stranger in the wheelchair anymore. It was just me there lying my back on the lawn, other than the people who I just bumped onto going over to the next door neighbor. The stranger on the wheelchair was nowhere to be seen. I went home and didn't bother to tell my wife what had happened. I swear it was hard to pretend like it was normal that time returning home, when something terribly like that had happened to me outside. I headed to the shower first and took a bath full of warm water. I thought I was going out of my mind after being chased by that creepy stranger. I laid on the tub in the warm water and tried to relax, thinking about being chased earlier outside. His horribly disgusting barefoot missing toenails can still be pictured in my head. Thinking about that weird stranger gave me so much chills, making me more scared picturing he would suddenly appear now sitting on my toilet if I keep on thinking about him. I tried to stop thinking about him and just sat there inside of the bathtub scrubbing myself or falling on the grass earlier. When dinner was ready, I had already dressed in my new clothes. Sophia me down from the hall to come eat the second I was already coming out of my bedroom. When coming to the kitchen, I saw my whole family sitting on the table. Then somebody I didn't expect was actually there. Someone I didn't even dare to see again was right there from my view, gazing back at me. I froze in fear, panicking with my heart dropping. The creepy stranger on the wheelchair appears at the end of the table, being so frightened that I fall back onto the refrigerator and screams out, "What the hell are you doing in my house?" My wife turns to me suddenly before getting up from her chair and walks over to me saying, "What was going on with you?" I told her that a weird stranger on the wheelchair had chased me outside earlier before I had returned home. When I looked over to the table, the stranger was gone, like he just disappeared instantly. The only ones sitting by the dinner table were my daughter and my son, who were shocked seeing the way I had reacted strangely, scaring them, wondering who I was even talking about when there was nobody around the dinner table except them only. My wife was fearful of me because of the way I was acting, thinking I was seeing a ghost at the moment. I told my wife what had happened earlier after dinner. She mentioned to me that their neighbor Anne from next door did mention something about a stranger on a wheelchair, which Anne had seen before from last Halloween. I still didn't know how I ended up being the one seeing him. Could my neighbor be haunted by a stranger on a wheelchair?